And now we would like to share with you a story of hope. We all have lost a loved one, and everyone grieves in their own way. But have you ever wondered if there's an afterlife? Does the other side really exist? Our next guest lost his 21-year-old son in a tragic accident 3 years ago, but has learned that there is a life after death, a place to connect with his loving son. Here to share his spiritual journey with us this morning, we would like to welcome Joe McQuillen to the show this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Courtney.
Yes.
Thank you for having me on.
First, I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your son.
Yeah, so am I. Thank you. It was life-changing, devastating.
When you sent us this book,
Right.
My Search for Christopher on the Other Side, Joe, I have to tell you, I could not set it down.
Right.
It
Right.
was just, it was amazing.
Right. Thank you. Well, one of the reasons is that I think my son, or I know my son, was with me on every keystroke, every paragraph. He was inspiring me. He was telling me what to write. He was, and so it made that even more special for me. You know, he wanted a message out to people who've lost kids, or anybody that's lost anybody who's lost loved ones. You know.
From what I've read so far, it's a story of grief and discovery. So after your son passed, what motivated you to reach out to mediums?
You know, it's funny. 16 years before Christopher crossed over, I had seen a medium kind of on a spiritual whim.
Right.
And it was fine, but it was mostly mundane, and I was kind of like looking at my watch, getting ready to go. And right before the end of it, the woman, Nancy Myers, and she's a medium now in Surprise, Arizona, and she said to me, "Oh, by the way, your dad's here, and he's holding a caboose, and he's telling me railroad, and that's the message for you." Now, my dad spent 40 years on the railroad. All the boys worked on the railroad in college. My grandfather, on my mom's side, my beloved Uncle Bill, we're a railroad family, that cold steel railroad, right? And so when she said that, I got the attention. And my dad, Iron Joe, wasn't verbose. He didn't say much. But when he said something, it mattered. And all he was telling me that he was there. 16 years later, when I wasn't ready to accept a world devoid of my son, Christopher, I drew on that bit of information and said, wait a minute, if my old man's on the other side, my son must be. And if he's not, or if it doesn't exist, if this is all hokey BS, let's cross it off the list and move on. But that started the search.
And reading this book, you kept notes from your visits with the mediums.
Oh, yeah.
So you wrote everything down, I'm sure, right after all of this happened.
Right.
Did you ever think, okay, I'm going to write a book?
No. You know, my plan was to have, I would tape some of these medium stuff. After I started taking notes, I started just leave iPhone, you know, recording. And then I would transcribe them. And I thought someday I'd be sitting on a porch in a rocking chair with a cigar, looking at these notes to feel better about what's going to come for me next. But a year after this, a year after his crossing, I got a message that I needed to write a book. My wife Sally, was talking to her brother about Christopher playing hide and seek when he was tenacious 2-year-old. And all of a sudden I got a message that said, you know, you got to find him, just like you found him playing hide and seek. Right. The next day I started the book. What's
so interesting is reading this, we all wonder what's on the other side. Is there an afterlife? And Joe, when your son has reached out to you, he actually describes what it's like.
Right.
And you hear so many people going to mediums and speaking with them, but you never hear about an actual description of what the next life will be like.
Right, right. And you know what? And it sounds pretty good. You know, he said to me, he calls me Pop. Yeah. When we were playful, he would call me Pop. When it was serious, he'd call me Dad. And so he'd say, Pop, you know, your side is like boot camp. You know, it can be wonderful, but it's a lot of lessons and a lot of work. My side's like a beach bungalow in Maui. You know, he said so, and he described the colors, the feeling, you know, what it means. You know, we've had a number of mediums come through and say he's in a Hawaiian shirt. There's Jimmy Buffett music playing in the background. So he's living this Beach Boy existence, you know, while the rest of us are grinding it out here, Courtney.
And someday we can all hope that we'll be connected.
You want to know something? I'm not ready to go. I got a lot of work to do. I got work to do there. I got 2 kids, a wonderful bride, wonderful wife of 28 years. But if the good Lord tapped me on the shoulder and said, pal, time's up, time to go, I'm okay. I've had a life beyond my wildest dreams. Then I get to cross over and spend it again with the next round with the kid that I love so dearly.
We cannot thank you enough for coming on the show today and sharing your story and giving all of us hope who have lost a loved one that there is an opportunity to connect with them. So we want to let everybody know before we wrap up, there is a book signing tonight at Hallwalls on Delaware from 5:30 to 8 p.m. So make sure to go out and see Joe and learn of his journey right here.
And my favorite part of that is a Q&A afterwards, because people have questions, and I want to help them.
Joe's from Buffalo, everybody.
Born and raised, the Queen City of the Great Lakes.
Welcome home. I know we have to say.
I love Buffalo.
Oh, well, it's so good to see you. Thank you for meeting you. We'll see everybody here on AM Buffalo on Monday.
Thanks, Courtney.